All of you out there in social media land, all over the airways, welcome to The Point. My name is Brother Darrell Smith, and this is...
My name is Nixon Silvani.
And we make up The Point, and we are so grateful and honored to have you witness what we're trying to do here as we try to seek to navigate through issues and topics, discussions, but we try to do that doing our very best to point to Jesus Christ, and hence the name DA Point. The Point, divinely assisted points, and we believe and understand and are trusting the fact that this divine assistance is coming from the Holy Spirit. And so we welcome you. Thank you for tuning in. Certainly want to ask you to like, share, subscribe as we put this out on various social media platforms. We also want to welcome your comments. We know that these topics and these issues, they draw out a lot of perspectives and opinions. And so we certainly welcome yours. We love for you to comment. Even if you are seeking to disagree with what we say, whether you agree or disagree, we ask that you would just display that Christ-like spirit as you are seeking to agree or disagree with us or others in the comment. And so what we plan to do is we plan to go ahead and continue the discussion of gender identity. This is our second episode, thank God. And what we're going to do is go ahead and continue that discussion today, doing our very best to point to Jesus, because we believe that's what the Holy Scriptures do. And so real quickly, we want to give you a real quick recap of what we did in episode 1. We obviously started with the definitions of two terms, gender identity and gender dysphoria. And they were very basic Google research definitions. And if the Lord say so, as we continue on with this, we'll certainly seek to look at some more scholarly work and articulations with regards to, those definitions and how society is viewing them. We also moved into the origin of gender. Nick had an awesome point by stating that, this whole thing is spiritual. And certainly with many of the topics that we talk about, you're going to hear us refer to spiritual warfare quite often. And certainly that was a magnificent, powerful point. And then we try to deal with some terminology and some things from the psychology or the psychiatric world, where we were dealing with the DSM-4 and DSM-5 and how the terminologies were changed. The DSM-4 used to call this a gender disorder. The DSM-5, the terminology was changed to gender dysphoria. Okay, and we thought that was key because that was a form of acceptance, and I believe that's strategic. Okay, then we tried to deal with the impact of gender identity on our society, obviously, how the various generations are dealing with it, this generation as opposed to previous generations dealing with, this whole gender identity confusion, gender dysphoria, and how it's impacting our society. We talked about the fact that it was an attack on humanity, it was an attack on God, it was an attack on truth. And then we dealt with the church's response, gender identity in the church. How is the church responding to this huge phenomenon, this uprise of gender confusion, identity, dysphoria, and so on and so forth? So that was a very quick recap. We encourage all of you, those of you who did not see episode 1, we want you to go back and look at that. Go back and look at episode 1. And that can catch you up to where we basically are right now. So we are now episode 2, continuing this discussion on gender identity. And so there are 2 areas of focus that we kind of want to focus on here. That's how we want to emphasize some of the things that we said in episode 1 as it relates to the impact of gender identity on society, and then also the impact of gender identity on religion. So, Nick, how is this impacting our society?
Man, I don't even know where to begin. But if I were to start at a starting point, I would say that these conversations are healthy and are needed.
Sure.
These are conversations that are ongoing. There are a lot of concerned parents. I was at the doctor's office the other day, and surprisingly, this patient and I was having a conversation. And one of the issues that she had was the same topic that we're talking about right now, gender identity. And her thing was, it's crazy how these higher powers that be are trying to impose their agenda on our kids. And she kept putting emphasis on the children. Because the adults are going to do what the adults do.
Yeah.
But if you could get them while they're young, then it's a wrap. So I think there's been a lot of noise that's been going on in society. So I think this conversation is fitting, is timely, because I want to zoom in on Neo.
Yes.
You know, Neo recently been on a podcast, and we could kind of like talk about his opinion as it relates to gender identity and what he had to say. Because the thing is, he's a celebrity figure.
Right.
And if he's talking about it, chances are there's other celebrities that's talking about it.
Right.
So we're like the middle class. We're like the 9 to 5 people. We're the majority. So just for him to even speak upon such, it to be brave enough too.
And that's key, because there are celebrities speaking on it. They're just speaking for it. And so now when you have Neo coming out like this in opposition to that, that's an anomaly.
Yep.
So this is going to be interesting, and I appreciate, like you said, his bravery.
Yes.
His bravery in regards to this. Absolutely.
It is crazy because we live in a country where it's free speech. You would think that we could express our opinion.
Right.
Like, we're not bashing on anybody. We're just expressing our opinion, how we feel about a subject matter.
Right.
So that's why I don't understand. And I want us to start there. So the starting point is about the opinion that Neo had. I know Neo was on the podcast. He had a lot to say about gender identity. And we're not even going to get to the part where his publicist says and how he rebutted and he responds after his publicist. I want to talk about the initial conversation that he had with, I forgot the podcast name.
Yeah, I did as well. But I mean, we can get into that later and people can research that themselves. But let's go ahead and deal with what he initially said.
Yeah, okay. You want me to go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll go.
We can paraphrase that.
No. I'll paraphrase. I guess Neo had an issue. One of the things, because I listened to the clip. Mm-hmm. One of the issues he had with, he said, man, you know, if I have a son that come up to me and walk up to me and says he's a boy.
Right.
I mean, not a girl. A girl. I'm sorry, a girl. He said, no, the child's too young to make such decisions. I'm the parent.
Right.
You know, he said, and then he went off to say that. Same thing. If a child is a boy or a girl and says that, hey, daddy, I'm a boy.
I feel like a boy.
Yeah.
I wanna be a
he
boy.
said no.
Right.
He said no, and he went on to mention that he got like 5 or 6 boys, and that he's raising to be a man.
Right.
Because he mentioned that in this generation, it's like cancel culture. The minute you express your opinion, this is where they want to cancel you. And he said, look, they impose all this other stuff, drugs and all this other stuff. When it comes to gender identity, they're for it. They're like, hey, he even went so far to say, I know I'm just kind of like summarizing what he said, but he even went so far to say that in LA, they're passing a law that if parents don't take heed to, like if a child say, hey, mom, dad, let's just say they're a boy, they say I'm a girl, and the parents refuse, that parent could get in trouble. So he said LA is even pushing a law about that. So he's not in agreement with some of the agendas that the government systems or the powers that be is pushing, and he's against it.
Right.
And sure enough, he got a lot of backlash for that.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much I'm just kind of like summarizing it, but we could make it relatable as it relates to us. But what are your thoughts on what he said?
So, a couple things. Number one, it really shows how far gone we, and when I say we, I'm talking about we as a society, the world, how far left we have gone, how wrong we are with this. So much so to the point where what he's saying should not be, that should be the norm. That shouldn't be like, we're kind of looking at him and rightfully so, we're giving him his kudos and everything. We're like, oh, that's brave. But what he's saying is common sense. This is not like something that is, coming from up top from the heavens, and just falling down on somebody's head, and they're speaking wisdom and like wisdom that we've never heard. These are situations and experiences, we have, just as normal people, as parents. I can remember when my boy, was young and he's just now starting to walk and whatever the case is, he would be attracted to, like, say, the color red. My wife has red high heels. Yeah. And so he run to the high heels because it's red and it looks, vibrant and bright, whatever. And he's like, ooh. And then, you know, quite naturally, me as a father, no, son, those are mommy's shoes.
Yep.
Those are shoes that belong to girls. They're high heels. And these are things that I had to teach him. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
He doesn't know at that point. And so the more consistent I was with that, he would be like, okay, daddy, the next time he see those shoes, he's like, daddy, those are mommy's shoes. Those are shoes for girls.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's right, son.
Right.
And so, you know, we as parents, you know, I think that's one of the things that Neo would allude to. He's like, you know, we kind of lost our way as parents.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a situation or in a society where the kids dictate how things are going to be and how, if they feel a certain way, they express their desires. The parents just want to run to that desire and just fulfill that desire. And it's like, no, teach them, guide them. That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And so for him to take that stance, though, as a celebrity, especially in a world like you alluded to before, cancel culture, I appreciate his bravery so much so to the point where he said, you know, maybe this isn't a world where we need a Neo.
Yeah.
If that's the case. And I appreciate that because, you know, there's a situation, I guess his publicist came out with an apology.
Yeah.
For what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, you know, everybody's kind of like, you know, we know that's made up. Like, come on, I'm going to educate myself on this. What do you need to educate yourself on? Really? There are two genders. And,
right.
And listen, we don't mean to, let us go ahead and pause and say, hey, we're not trying to bash anybody. But I mean, when we get to the point to where we can't respect truth and fact and objectivity, then I mean, we're at a dangerous place. We can't even have a conversation, a legitimate conversation. There are two genders. Two. And I'm not lost. I'm just saying it and I want that to sink in.
Yeah.
There are two genders. But I mean, we'll get there eventually with the impact on religion and the church, because we're going to call some scriptures into play here. And we want to see what God has to say with regards to this.
Yeah, I want to add on to what Neil said also. I know I mentioned some of the things earlier, but quote unquote, Neil said parents forgot the role of parenting. And if you, like you said, if you talk about science, the people that have these agendas and trying to post it on their children, they came from heterosexual parents. There was a man and a woman.
Yes.
And voila, you exist. So that's why we do live in a world where things are upside down. And the reality is truth hurts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, truth is what gets you persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
Truth is what gets you killed. Truth is what gets you canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So even Jesus in that day, Jesus Christ, when he was here on earth, he spoke so much truth. Right. That it ended up putting him on the cross. Mm-hmm. You know, because they was like saying, oh yeah, you're God, you blaspheming, this and that. And that even applies to even us. You know, when people are convicted, mm-hmm. they know the truth, but it's a little degree of ignorance in a sense and pride. Mm-hmm. Because you have to be humble enough to receive the truth.
Right.
And so when Neo is speaking truth, or just anyone that opposed to these individuals' agenda, there's a sense of conviction and there's a sense of pride. Like, who you think you are?
Let me chime in here because you're touching on it.
Yeah.
Truth will get you killed, absolutely. But truth will also set you free.
Yes.
And that's what you're alluding to with, you know, being humble enough to accept it, right?
Yep.
And I think that's why there's such a push to cancel people, because truth will set you free.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? And so we're honored to even be doing this because we understand that unequivocally that truth will set you free, right? There are a lot of people in bondage, captive right now, mentally, psychologically, because the influencers, Hollywood, you know, these big companies that have so much influence, you know, Disney, so on and so forth, they're strategic in how they package this stuff. Yeah. That's why there's such a strong push to go after kids. Yeah. If they go after kids, trust me, if they get the kids to do it, you're gonna have a hard time, you know, fighting against it.
That's true.
So they begin to try to, you know, and this goes back to spiritual warfare, y'all. It really does. There's so many levels to this, right? There's so many levels to this, and what's scary is many people are ignoring the spiritual aspect of this. They're ignoring. They're focusing on how they feel, period.
Yeah.
And I should have the right to this, and I should have the right to that, right? Listen, people have rights because they're humans, period.
Yeah.
Your rights shouldn't depend on what you prefer sexually or in terms of your gender. You feel that you are a boy trapped in a girl's body or vice versa. There's a spiritual aspect to this, and that's dangerous when people ignore that.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah. Once you assign a young, beautiful, innocent face to it, it becomes that much harder, to fight against it, right? So yeah, truth will set you free, and that's why there's such a pushback. If you say something, they're gonna cancel you. Well, guess what? The point we just started, what you gonna cancel?
No, but I like how you pointed out the truth will set you free. You're right, because the devil, Satan, he's been a liar since the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then the devil's full of lies. Mm-hmm. So there's opposition. You got truth and lies. It's the liar that's trying to persecute you and kill you and cancel you. That's the liar. That's the enemy. That's the devil. Right. But at the same time, like what you said, once you accept that truth,
yes, sir,
it set you free.
Set you free.
It's like this. We were both at one point in the world. We were lost. We were all under a lie. The devil's like saying, you can have anything in the world you want to. Yeah. You can have car, clothes, women, money. I'll give it to you all. All that is a lie. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you lose your soul, what does it matter? When it goes on to your relatives, your inheritance go to your relatives. But what about your soul? Right. Like, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So all those things, it's all a lie. But once you come to the knowledge of the truth, and you're humble enough to receive it, to your point, now you're free. Same thing as gender identity. If the devil is manipulating, I gotta say the devil because we know that it's spiritual warfare. If he's manipulating folks to say, man, a young man is a boy, he said, now you're a girl, you're a girl, you're a girl. And then now he's feeding them lies, and that lie become believable. And then so now it has to take Christ to come to set the captives free and bring that truth. And that's why you gotta receive it. Like I was once an alcoholic. I believe, I'm an alcoholic. I like to drink. When somebody tells now you're worthy, you're better than this, you have purpose. And that truth set me free. Yeah. But let's go back to Neo. So he been getting a lot of backlash.
Yes.
I want to talk about his purpose. I want to read the quote.
Yeah, go ahead. Please read that.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but
it's so fake.
It is sad when somebody come out and express their opinion or their thought about a topic. Then they come back and say, "Oh, we're sorry. He really didn't mean that." Right. I want to read this. Hold on. Let me read what his publicist said, and we'll talk about that. So this is Neo publicist,
Yes, sir.
It says, after much reflection, I'd like to express my deepest apologies to anyone that I may have hurt, and with my comments on parenting and gender identity. I've always been an advocate for love and exclusivity in the LGBTQI plus community, so I understand how my comment could have been interpreted as insensitive and offensive, the statement said in part.
So yeah.
His publicist came out and said that.
So this sounds so familiar. Like I think they just copy and paste at this point.
Chat GTP?
Yeah, that probably that too. But I mean, come on, seriously. After much reflection, I express my deepest apology to anyone that I may have hurt with my comments. So this frustrates me because we're getting to the point to where it's almost like, okay, well, you don't have a right to have an opinion. You don't have a right to say what you believe. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we just got off of the whole bullying trip, a while back. Everything was bully this, bully that. You're bullying me to do this. You're bullying me to do that. Well, if I can express how I feel about a subject, aren't you the bully? At that point, something that y'all kept pushing, for a long time. So again, have your opinion. Listen, God gives us all the power of choice.
Yeah, free will.
So you have the right in that sense to choose what you want to do. But it is a problem when you try to make the world accept your desire. I don't even want to say reality. Sometimes, with these words, it gets a little tricky. But what you desire. And my thing is, listen, I mean, it's going to cover a lot. We're dealing with gender identity, but really, I mean, and oftentimes we keep saying LGBTQ plus, so that includes all of it, right? If you're a man and you want to be with a man, you can choose to do that.
Free will.
Okay? But don't try to manipulate others around you. Don't try to redefine things that have been defined since basically the beginning of time. For example, if you are married, and this is, you know, something that it used to drive me crazy with this whole folk who's talking about like this open marriage stuff. No such thing. There's no such thing. You are tipping out, having an affair, fornicating, adultery with someone else if you tip out on your spouse. That's what it is. Don't call it an open marriage. And that's, listen, again, strategy. Because what they're trying to do is redefine marriage.
Yep.
They're trying to redefine what a boy is, what a male is, trying to redefine what a woman is. And this stuff is so plain to see. It's strategic. Remember the first episode we talked about it, an attack on truth. Okay? And I can't wait to get there. We're going to get there, trust me. And I'm going to tell y'all where we're going and right now. We'll get there in a few minutes because we want to hear what the scripture has to say on this. Romans chapter 1. Goodness gracious. An attack on truth, y'all. We said this last time. An attack on God. We said this last time. An attack on humanity.
Yep.
Now, we become so smart and so wise and intelligent that we become stupid. That's my version. Romans is going to tell you, is going to give you his version, right? Professing themselves to be wise. Let me just give it to you right now. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Y'all see that? Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. That's the scriptures. What I'm saying is we become so smart that we become stupid. We really have. Listen, you are who and what you are. Biologically, when you were birthed into this world and you had male genitalia, you had female genitalia, that's what you are. Now, you can decide that, hey, you know, I don't like that. I want to swing that way. That's you. But do not try to manipulate truth and reality and what is just to fit your desires and your agenda. Go ahead, my bro.
Man, I want to go back to the Roman scripture. I know we have some passages that we want to read, and I would love to read that. And it kind of like ties into what you're saying. But I think it goes back to the beginning. If we go back to the beginning of time when God created man and woman.
Yes, sir.
And then the fall of man. That's the residue between the fall of man. Man decided that we don't want to trust in God's wisdom. We want to utilize our own wisdom.
Yeah.
And you know that's the curse of the free will.
Yes.
Because now man have the knowledge to make evil decisions and even good decisions. And we can clearly see in society they're not making the right decisions. And especially this is just one of many.
Yes.
And this is why we put a lot of emphasis on Christ.
Yes.
Because we are a fallen world and we showing up, we need Jesus every day on the hour. we showing up need him. And I think we could see that even America have gone so far away from God.
So far.
And we could see that the kids are not respecting their elders. Crime rates are high. And even when so far you talked about marriage, you know, marriage is not honored. Marriage is not respected among the community, and gender identity. Now it's like, okay, they say, hey, it is crazy because I mean, we're gonna get to Romans. It's crazy. I was on a social media platform, and then I came across this video about this woman. She took her child. This is what Neo said. He said, parents forgot how to parent. This woman took her child to go see a veterinarian doctor. I know it's funny, but this is real life. This woman took her son to go see a veterinary doctor because she said her son is a cat.
Wow.
She said her son told her that she's a cat.
Wow.
And she said, this is what my son wants to be. Then that's what he is. He's a cat. And she took her son because her son was sick. I mean, I always be laughing, but this is real. The doctor told her, like, ma'am, we can't treat your son. Right. But she wanted to sue the doctor. She said, you know what? I want to sue the doctor for not treating my son because he's an animal.
And you know, I don't know the story, but you know what's crazy? There's probably a court that will entertain that somewhere. To be honest.
Look, I just wanted to share that how upside down this world is.
Yes.
The decisions that shows you how far we are away from God.
Absolutely.
Because the more distance you become from God, the more crazy things sound. Things just don't make sense. Like, huh? What used to make sense? Like, nah, man, you can't talk about that.
Right.
We talk about marriage between a man and a woman. Nah, that's not what marriage is.
Right.
Marriage is between a same sex or whatever the case may be. So people is not honoring things that are biblical anymore.
Right.
They're honoring things of the world.
Now we're gonna get to Romans in just a minute, but let me just say, in episode 1, remember we carved out some of the time to talk about the church's response.
Oh yeah,
right. And see, and this is why I kept harping on that, and I'll harp on it again. I believe that is so crucial. The response to this is key right now, because a lot of people will take, the approach that, well, okay, that's them, that's what they want to do, as long as it ain't hurting me, I'm okay. And I think that response is not good enough. Has to be. When you look at Jesus, when he came on the scene and you look at his ministry, trust me, he was in opposition to the powers that be at that point. That's why they want to kill him.
Yeah.
When he came and he said what he said and he did what he did, that was revolutionary. That was in their face. That was attacking the system. You get what I'm saying? And so we have to take that same approach. I mean, we quote this all the time in churches, Matthew 16:18. Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, right?
Yeah.
Gates of hell. So it's really referring to the church's onslaught, the church's aggressive approach, or the aggressive opposition to the gates of hell. You get what I'm saying? The church should be on the offensive.
Right.
And I think that's what's missing here when it comes to the LGBTQA. Now, again, this is not church bashing. We said that in episode 1. We're stating that in episode 2. I just think the church, Christ followers, we need more of a unified approach against this. We have to speak out against this, individually, but collectively. I'm focusing more so on the collective aspect of it, because the LGBTQ movement, they are collective, they are unified. You get what I'm saying? They are presenting this to us in various forms, right? It's in the music. You know that. It's in the music.
Yeah.
Turn on the TV, it's in the music videos. It's in the cartoons. It's in what we watch. We're seeing it 24/7. We're hearing it 24/7. We experience it to some degree. You get what I'm saying? That's why, all of it, we have to have a unified approach.
Yeah.
Christ followers.
Yeah.
And we have to speak out. And if we don't,